What is up, guys? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another college football preview video. And man, we can finally taste it. We are weeks away, not months away from college football starting up. And for that reason, a lot of people are throwing questions my way like, hey, who do you think a breakout team is going to be? Or, hey, how do I make money in college football just generally? Well, in this video, we are going to shine the light on two teams that I think will print you money in 2024 from a sports betting perspective. And I will start off by shining the light on one team, and then in the second half, my buddy Ryan is going to step up to the plate and shine the light on a second team. And we put our stamps on these squads for the entire season. Obviously, injuries can change that, so be wary of that. But I really do think that these teams are going to print you some money, and I say we get into it right now. The first team I'm going to highlight here are going to be the Texas State Bobcats. And yeah, San Marcos this year I feel like is going to be rocking. G.J. Kinney, coming over from Incarnate Word, has absolutely flipped the switch on this program because for a long time, obviously, any program in the state of Texas gets this inherent billing that they can be something special. And for a long time, we've seen a lot of middling programs like SMU, and I'm talking about over the past, couple decades, maybe even just the past decade, but a middling team like an SMU or a Houston or, a below average team like a North Texas or Texas State. And Texas State is relatively new to the FBS, but man, they exploded on the scene last year. They went into Baylor, obviously early on, and won that game. And even though TJ Finley, the quarterback from last year for Texas State, is out of the picture, this is still a very, very talented Texas State squad. And they actually brought in Jordan McLeod from James Madison, who obviously last year with Kurt Cignetti had a great season, one of the best group of 5 teams in all of college football last year. And I think they are bringing that excitement to San Marcos, to Texas State. I really do think this is going to be one of those teams that explodes on the scene, and regardless of their schedule, their first real test is going to be against, actually, Troy. I don't think Arizona State is a true test. I think they're going to be able to wipe the floor and pull off a quote-unquote group of 5 over Power 5 type upset. But man, across the board, Joey Hobart, Jordan McLeod, Ishmael Mahdi, this is an offense that I think can explode, and I think the defense will get better despite losing, some talented upperclassmen as well, because they retained a lot of guys. This is an experienced lineup. I really do think they're going to be able to do damage, and even if you go back to last season, James Madison, if you're looking at the group of 5 picture, they had an 8-3 ATS regular season against Division I opponents, and the year prior, you look at Tulane and the Green Wave and how they burst onto the scene with a 12-2 win-loss record, which also perfectly coincided with a 12-2 against the spread record as well. And that same year, 2022-2023 season, the Troy Trojans from the Sun Belt as well had one of the best years in program history and went 12-2 ATS. And the point being is, if you can identify a season from a team that breaks down the barrier and launches that program into a new chapter, you will make money, and I think that's exactly what we have here in Texas State. In conclusion, we're going to place some future bets here on Texas State. Obviously, we're going to take the over-under 8.5 wins over. I bet it on FanDuel, got plus 108. It was a very good price, and you can find a flat 8 out there as well on DraftKings, and it'll kind of eat up some juice on you, which is why I stayed away from just the flat 8 number. But I'm also going to be taking the Sun Belt West Division winner to be Texas State at plus 220. I'm also going to take them to make the college football playoff at plus 1400. And coinciding with all of that, I'm going to take them to win the Sun Belt at plus 400. I know, a lot of eggs in the Texas State basket, but again, I do think this is going to be a team that prints you money in 2024, and I want to be part of it. All that being said, let's go ahead and toss it over to my buddy Ryan McIntyre, and he does a great job, especially covering the Big 12, and he's got a team for us that he's also going to put his stamp on. Well, hey, Ryan, thank you for hopping on, man. And, you're somebody that's pretty dialed into the Big 12. Obviously, you're a Mountaineers fan, so you're kind of ingrained into it. You have a show that's centered around the Big 12, and on top of that, you actually coached in the Big 12. Not for this sport, but you at least we're around it, and you got to feel the environments and all these programs that I feel like still carry a lot of the same characteristics across the sports lines. And so the floor is yours, man. Who is that college football team that you're keen in on this season from a betting standpoint?
First off, I appreciate it, Rob. And yes, I do love the Big 12. I would make the case for all 16 Big 12 teams if you gave me all the time, but I'll dial in on one. And I feel like everybody's in love with Utah and they kind of like this team. But when I really dive into Kansas State, I can't get enough of their culture. And I think last year was the regression year. They went to the Big 12 title game 2 years ago. They beat TCU, the undefeated team. Last year, they came back a little bit to the mean, and the definition of their mean was 8-4, 4 one-possession losses. At Texas, they lost because they missed an extra point. At Missouri on a 60-yard field goal. They lost in Farmageddon in the snow. Now, there's a quarterback change, but I think it's addition by subtraction. I think Will Howard, he was up and down in his tenure at Kansas State. I love Avery Johnson. I love the upside. I think he just adds a different dynamic to this offense. He came in relief in the Texas Tech game and had like 5 touchdowns. I think he just adds a different dynamic. We haven't seen a guy this mobile and electric since Colin Klein for K-State fans. And I love the 1-2 punch in the backfield with DJ Giddens coming back for his second year in the system. And then also Edwards coming over back from Colorado, who's Avery Johnson's best friend. And another reason I really like this team, 8 starters back on the defense. So you got a veteran defense, you got a high upside quarterback, and you just have a culture that is pretty much bulletproof. I mean, you know what you're getting with K-State. The floor is going to be 8 wins, but I also think that they have been knocking on the door of a ceiling and a high ceiling. A guy like Avery Johnson, the highest prospect quarterback that they've had. I think that 10-2, 11-1 is definitely on the table. They're going to be favored in every single game. They don't draw Utah. I think their hardest game, and this isn't biased, is at West Virginia or at Iowa State at the end of the year. So those are the 2 hardest games, probably around to pick them. I definitely like the over 9.5. I like 3-1 to make the playoffs, 4-1 to win the Big 12, and then I also think if Avery Johnson could be a guy that's going to be a pro at the next level and potentially be a Heisman candidate, I think he could sprinkle the 70-1 national championship.
When you are kind of thinking about Kansas State's perception, what lines they might be getting, like even against, at Tulane in week 2 or right out the gate against Arizona at home, what do you kind of think in terms of the lines that they're going to be getting from on the betting side of things?
Well, they drilled teams at home last year. So from a covering at home standpoint, I have a lot of confidence. I mean, I was high on Troy last year. They beat them by 30. UCF, they beat them by 2 touchdowns. Texas Tech, they beat them by 3 touchdowns. They beat TCU by 40, Houston by 40, Baylor by 40 as well, and then they were able to pull away in their other games. So you kind of just look at it. They do a good job of not playing down to their competition, in my opinion. And I think that's the sign of the good culture that Bill Snyder built and then handed it off to Kleiman. I think this is a team you want to back week to week. You arguably have the best coach in the Big 12. I know Gundy and Whittingham are right there, but Kleiman, with his North Dakota State pedigree, he's had a history of covering those big numbers as a favorite. You're going to get a disciplined defense, so they're not going to give up big plays. They're not going to give up late backdoor touchdowns. And then you also, on the other side, you have the big explosive play with Avery Johnson, DJ Giddens, Edwards coming over from Colorado. And you just look at it, they're so good at home. They take pride in not losing at home. And I don't think that they're going to be laying as big of numbers on the road, but they always seem to find a way to get over the finish line. So I have no problem backing this team week to week. And hopefully when we get to the playoff, I think they'll be a dog, and no problem backing them as a dog against some of these SEC and Big Ten teams like TCU 2 years ago.
Really big shout out to Ryan for hopping on today. And man, putting his stamp on K-State. He is somebody that's dialed into the Big 12. He actually coached or was on the coaching staff of, guys like Bob Huggins and Frank Martin in the Big 12 and the SEC. And for that reason, I am really grateful for his time. And down below, I'm going to list all of his links, whether that's, to his show, to his Twitter handle, to his YouTube, whatever else. I definitely recommend going and blowing him up because he deserves it. He puts in the work. He's a grinder, and he's past his coaching career at this point, I think, anyway. And he's in this sports betting space alongside me and a bunch of other great, minds and great talent. And yeah, I think we should all be supporting each other. So go check him out. Big thanks to Ryan. And as always, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.